Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the opportunity to speak on the Social Security extension of young persons' services and remedial matters amendment bill at the committee stages. And what a lot of bluff and bluster we've just heard from that last member, because he didn't, on this side of the House, particularly within the Labor Party, we like to actually base our decisions on the research and the evidence, not like the government, not like that party opposite, where they are now actually going to extend a program that demonstrably does not work. Demonstrably does not work because the number of young people not in education, employment or training has risen under that government. So their plans demonstrably have not worked. And furthermore, this program is so new that it has not been evaluated. Mr. Naro, he's gone quiet now, hasn't he? Because what he knows is that what I've just said is absolutely true. That if he, well, I'm talking about the research and evidence, Mr. Naro, can you please table? I invite the member to table the analysis and the evaluation of the youth service and that program. I invite him to table it right now, the research and evaluation that shows us that it works. Well, there's silence. There's silence because the program has not been evaluated, it has not been researched, and yet there's Alfred Naro having the cheek to get up in this House and say that it's all based on research and evidence. Well, that is demonstrably untrue. And the outcomes for our young people under this government is that the numbers not in employment, education or training keep growing under this government, and that is the outcome of their lack of ability to actually connect with young people, to actually work with them and make them feel like a really valued part of our community so that they can actually engage and participate and be educated and be employed and be involved in training, because under that government they just get told that they're actually pretty damn hopeless. That's what they get told. The Minister of Finance has told every single young person in this country that they are pretty damn hopeless. And it's no wonder, well, the member's not making it up. The member is not making it up, because I can table, if the chair would indulge me, I can table the evidence of Bill English saying that about young people. And so, well, they've got noisy again now, haven't they? But Mr. Chair, the truth is that their programs aren't working, because if they were working, we would see a reduction in the number of young people not in employment, education and training. The opposite is in fact happening. Mr. Chair, the member opposite brought into this debate the issue of paid parental leave. And so I need to respond on that issue, because in fact the Labor government increased paid parental leave by 14 weeks while it was in government. And in fact it extended the coverage of paid parental leave on 3 occasions while it was in government. And the latest extension to paid parental leave was in 2007. In 2008, we were no longer the government, and I say that as if we left voluntarily. We, of course, didn't. But the truth is that since 2007, that government has done nothing about extending paid parental leave that they weren't put under pressure to from this side of the House. And so, if that member is genuine about early intervention, if he is genuine about early intervention, then he will be voting for extending paid parental leave to 26 weeks when that comes before this House in another few weeks' time. So, Mr. Chair, back to the bill. I want to talk about the sanctions part of this bill, because I want to address the issue about what sort of callous government it would be that would introduce a tough measure like sanctions and not evaluate or do any research into what happens to the young people who have those sanctions taken out against them. Because as the member Jan Logie said before, it might sound like they're getting a little bit of a telling off, this idea of sanctions. In fact, what a sanction is doing is taking away their livelihood. A sanction takes away their incomes. Is it any wonder that we have increasing numbers of families sleeping in cars, Mr Chair?
Sue Moroney.
Is it any wonder that we have increasing numbers of families and their children sleeping in garages? Is it any wonder that we have more than one family living in 2 and 3 bedrooms homes when this government has prided itself on taking sanctions out against some of the most vulnerable people in our community? Not only have they undertaken that measure to put these sanctions against these people, take their livelihoods away from them for sometimes quite minor misdemeanours, but they do not care enough to even find out what is happening to those people that the sanctions have been taken out against. Because under this bill, that minister and the chair will not be able to tell us what happens to people after they have been sanctioned. She will refuse to tell this House and refuse to tell the country what happens to these young people if they have these sanctions taken out against them. Why do I raise this? It's because it's important to know when we make these when that government makes these substantial policy changes, what the impact is on our community. What is the impact on children? And I want to say to the Minister that that is, from the Labor Party, the key question here in this bill, is what is the impact on children? What is the impact on children on these sanctions? And we know far too many of them are ending up in inadequate housing and accommodation, partially due to the impact of this bill, but also partially due to the inability of that government to actually address the housing crisis or even admit that one exists. What is the impact on the children when the teen parent is required to go into full-time work or full-time education when that child is just 6 months old? What is the impact on children when their teen parent is required to go to a teen parent unit when they don't really want to be there? What is the impact on those children when they are required to be in early childhood education rather than that being at home at the age of 6 months old, developing that close bonding and development with their parent? That is the key question. That's the key policy question that needs to be asked here. The last member talked about sanctimony. Well, I just want to put that one right back in the government's court, because the sanctimony of putting these measures in without any desire to find out what the impact of those measures is the ultimate sanctimony. That's the ultimate sanctimony. It is creating social problems for our country, the sort of social problems that I hoped never to see in Aotearoa, New Zealand. And it's these types of measures, these types of bills that are unmeasured, that are unresearched, that have no evidence base that sits behind them, that actually creates that sort of social problem that we should not see here in the land of plenty, Mr Chair, but we are seeing it. Mr Chair, my final point that I want to raise here in this debate is about the teen parent units. Yes, they were created and put in place by the Labor government, and yes, they are a wonderful way of being empowering of young parents, rather than punitive, but empowering of them. Not sanctions, but offering the opportunity of education. Under this bill, that offer of the opportunity for education becomes an obligation, becomes something that is a requirement, becomes something that the state's going to come and do to you if you do something not right in your life. It's going to require you to undertake education. Mr Chair, one of the reasons why these teen parent units work so well, having visited a number of them, is because the teachers in those teen parent units tell me that the young parents who are in those units are motivated. They want to be there. They have chosen, because of this new little person in their life, it has motivated them to improve themselves, to seek more education. And so I want to urge the government to adopt and vote for the SOP that's been put forward by Carmel Sepuloni that says please don't limit them and their ambitions to just level 2 NCEA. Please allow them to dream. Please allow them to see education as an opportunity and something that is going to improve their lives. Because for many of these young people, having had a child at a young age is the very motivation that turns their life around, that makes them understand that they are now responsible for another life and that they want to improve themselves.
Mr. Chair. The Honourable Anne Trolley.
Mr. Chair, look,